before the comprehensive plan was even updated. And this is something that he should have done as his department, City Plan Commission. You're supposed to have started when the thing was out of date. Now, I can see that only his benefit has been put into the, in basically the 35 since 2003 to 2008.
Just so this is not a Q&A of Mr. Durkee.
No, it's got, okay, it's got 35 recusals of things where he put aside the share since 2003 to 2008. He said, okay, because he got a conflict of interest, something that he was going to gain money. So from 2003 to 2008, basically sat down for almost 3 years. Most of the cases that he was here. Now, is that somebody we want for the future of this city of Providence? Somebody who can't do his job because he's more busy concerned on how much income he's going to get or how much jobs he's going to get out of the projects? I don't see why this should be an appointment for him. I think he should step aside, and he's done a disservice for the community, paying higher more money for all these consultants that are doing these charades or whatever you want to call it. And he's something that he's supposed to take care of.
Thank you. Judith Riley, you have the floor. 3 minutes.
Thank you. I think Mr. Durkee's 15 years on the City Plan Commission are enough. I just want to run down a list of things you should be aware of that I hope you've looked at. First is the entire history of the Alcove TIF, which is up on Rhode Island Future and a couple of different posts that I read this week. Mr. Durkee has an ethics complaint pending against him filed by Bona. He is on videotape chairing a meeting which he was supposed to have recused from. As part of that long saga of questionable and worthy of investigation actions that got the Alcove TIF passed, there's also another pending investigation against Mr. Deller at the Planning Department. Mr. Lemus brought up the recusals, about 3 dozen of them. We don't know if Mr. Durkee actually recused or just filed the paperwork and went ahead and chaired the meetings as he did with Alcove. Under state ethics law, there is such a thing as too much recusal. If you are too involved in the things that come before your board, you probably shouldn't be on the board if you're recusing that often. Last night, Mr. Durkee attempted to chair another meeting even though his 5-year term was up. I also sent you a letter earlier this week. You, the City Council, and the Mayor took the comprehensive planning process away from Mr. Durkee. He, as the chairman, allowed the city to labor under a comprehensive plan that was out of date since 2002. The minute it was passed, since it was written in 1992, it was out of date. He should have leaped on that process and brought us forward. He did not. We waited way too long, and you had to take the process away from him. I think you should also, before you take any actions, make sure that all his financial disclosures are on file with the State Ethics Commission. And I think you should make sure that all his tax credits are in order. I think you need to do a little bit more due diligence. I think you really need to look into this and not rubber stamp it. I think that going forward, there's going to be more investigations, and it will have repercussions to folks who do not take the proper due diligence now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Just one
clarification
on serving beyond the term. I believe the charter calls for serving until a successor has been appointed.
No, it doesn't. It says you may not serve.
It specifically says that?
Yes, it does, sir.
Right, some boards they do. Okay, I'll stand corrected. I'll check it.
In terms of last night, the city's gave me the opinion that it was the 31st of January. So when we learned during the meeting that it was in fact the 5th, I left.
So it runs until January 31st?
Well, that's what I was told during the day, and when I asked if I should even be at this meeting, they said yes, it's 31st of January, so I said, okay, that's fine.
Oh, so you did serve.
And so
So your term hasn't expired yet?
My term has expired.
As of the 6th.
As of the 6th of January. So I left the meeting after that, and they re-voted on the one item that.
Oh, okay. So then you followed the rules.
Yeah, it was advice I was given during the day, and then when it was determined to be potentially incorrect,
you followed the advice. Was the legal advice from the law department? So you followed the law department's advice, okay?
Both times, to go to the meeting, then to leave.
Well, that means they were doing their due diligence, because they wanna make sure everything's done correctly too. Scott, any other questions?
Move approval.
Motion to approve by Councilman Hassett, second by Councilman, Wood. Discussion. I just wanna clarify just a couple things. I did take the time, and, Mr. Riley said make sure we do our due diligence. I actually took the time, last week or so to discuss, any of the issues they were talking about with the law department. Just very quickly, one, the fact that Mr. Durkee is recusing himself means he is following the rules. And I'm glad to see that the law department has advised him during those meetings. He took their advice and recused him, and that's what you're supposed to do. So you are doing what the Ethics Commission has asked. In fact, I know there have been council members, even legislators on the floor up in the State House have had to recuse themselves from votes. That's part of what you have to do, so you're following. So I want to thank you for doing that. Second, as the proposed, I guess, ethics thing, I spoke to the law department. That is something that, it's up to the Ethics Commission to determine whether or not there was a potential violation or not. But what I gather is any type of ramification to that doesn't rise to a level of non-appointment, because you recuse yourself from the voting process, and I gather you might have chaired, but that didn't rise to the level of any type of intentional impropriety. So unless something gets to that point, I don't see any reason why that should prohibit your reappointment. So, I had the conversation with the law department and the city solicitor, and that was the advice they gave me, and I think it's important the public know, and the city solicitor has watched it, monitored this issue, and their determination that's not a prohibition at this point in time for Mr. Durkee's reappointment. So I was comfortable with it, and I have had conversations with the Durkee prior, and my impression from Mr. Durkee, he seems an honest guy. He gave me assurances that he's going to continue, by the way, to follow what the law department has advises him, and will continue to follow what the Ethics Commission advises the law department, and he'll continue to do that. So I want to thank him for that, and I want to thank him for his job performance. I know it's difficult, but for 15 years, and by the way, it's a long time. I guess they said there's a few, like 30 some odd recusals. Well, that's a nominal amount in the 15 years as far as I'm concerned, and I know you have hours and hours of meetings dealing with numerous issues in one of those meetings. So I don't think that's a prohibition either. So I want to thank you for your service, and unless the law department comes to any type of contrary view, which they haven't, and to me, then I see no prohibition. Councilman Wood?
Just looking at your resume, Steve, I just want to thank you for the breadth and duration of your public service.
Mr. Chairman, just a clarification, Judith, you are correct. There is a special, that no member shall serve beyond the date of expiration of the term unless reappointed. Not all in that category, but you stand corrected.
Another clarification is that the 36 recusals were not for the 15 years, sir. It was for the last few years.
That just means, my impression, that means he's following the law.
Are you?
Listen, I'm not going to have a Q&A with you. That just means he's following the rules, and I appreciate the fact he's following the advice of the law department.
Mr. Chairman, I just also want to echo what the chairman was talking about. I think that Mr. Durkee has served honorably. The fact that he does recuse himself, I don't know what the problem is in a number of recusals. You're following the law. You are in the consulting business, and it's one of the reasons why you're on the Planning Commission, because of your expertise in those areas. And some boards, we specifically say that you have to be an attorney, you have to be an architect. So those things are going to arise.
You fill the seat that is required to be an architect.
Correct, and you have a specific requirement that you're filling. So there are going to be those times where you're going to have to recuse yourself. There are situations where, because of the business you're in, that you're going to find yourself with a potential conflict. I think that you had the insight to recuse yourself, and you should be applauded for that. We think that all the boards in the city, I think we've had pretty good reputation as far as recusals, and I think you've lived up to the law. I agree with the chairman on that. And I want to thank you for your service. I know this is not an easy job, particularly this year with the comprehensive plan, but I think you've done an admirable job, and you deserve confirmation by the council.
Any other comments from the committee members? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Durkee, congratulations. Go to the full council. Motion adjourned by Councilman Hassett, second by Councilman Wood. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you,
Motion carries.